The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Concord shimmered with light from 1,000 suns. Every species was represented, from the translucent Ural, whose bodies pulsed like starlight in water, to the scaled warborn of Karun whose eyes burned amber in the dark, and at the heart of that circle, beneath the cathedral dome of crystal and plasma, sat Councillor Drex of the Taval Dominion, the oldest surviving voice among them. Drex's mind wandered as the meeting droned on. Trade routes, border disputes, energy taxation, and all the trivialities of peace. Yet beneath it all, an unspoken tension hummed like a buried minefield. Every council veteran knew it. Every youngling ignored it. The silence broke when one of the new recruits, a slender avian named Kalorian, raised his feathered crest and asked innocently, "Esteemed councillors, may I ask, why is the Terran sector still unclaimed territory?" The chamber shifted. Conversations froze mid-sentence. The holographic map flickered. Drex's heart stuttered once, an old reflex from another age. His lower hands folded together, a Tavalian sign of restraint. Around him others stiffened, tendrils and limbs curling instinctively closer to their bodies. No one spoke. The word hung in the air, echoing through the acoustic amplifiers like a sacred curse. Terran Keylor tilted his head, genuinely puzzled. "I meant no offense. It's simply strange. That entire sector remains uninhabited, unlisted. Yet it sits at the crossroads of the inner spiral. Enough." The word came from Drex, sharp and final. The young avian flinched, feathers shivering. The silence deepened, heavy, brittle, alive. Drex felt the weight of centuries pressing against his chest. He had heard the word Terran spoken aloud only twice before, once in youth, once in war. Both times had changed history. Kelor lowered his voice. "Forgive me, counselor, but who were they?" Drex's inner eyelid flicked in discomfort. He remembered the sound of thunder that was not weather, the smell of air torn apart by kinetic fire. The screams, not of victims but of soldiers who refused to die quietly. He leaned forward, voice low, almost reverent. "Who were they?" he repeated. "They were human." The chamber's lights dimmed slightly, the central AI responding to the sharp drop in vocal activity. The entire council had gone still. Drex rose, his ceremonial robes whispering against the marble floor. His reflection shimmered in the obsidian table, the image of an elder who had seen too much. He turned toward the younger councillors. "You were born into an age of peace," he began, tone steady but heavy with memory. "But peace is not the natural state of the galaxy. It was bought, paid for by those we feared enough never to fight again." A faint tremor ran through his left hand, not weakness, but recollection. "When I was a commander in the Rim Wars, our fleets encountered a system none of our charts recognized. There were ruins there, metal skeletons of ships older than anything we'd ever seen, burned clean through, and on one of the wrecks, a single word carved into the hull." He looked up, eyes reflecting the starlight from the dome. "Terran." The word fell again like a hammer. Keylor's crest flattened. "So they were extinct?" Drex gave a slow, humorless smile. "Extinct?" he said softly. "No, young one. That would be a mercy. The Terrans vanished. But extinction, no. Nothing so simple." He moved toward the holographic map, gesturing at the dark quadrant of the spiral arm. An area deliberately unlit, like a scar the galaxy chose not to remember. "Once," Drex continued, "there were stories of ships that appeared from nowhere, silent, shieldless, invisible until they struck. Of soldiers who fought even after death should have claimed them. Of worlds burned to stop a single human landing force. We thought they were myths. Then till we met them," he paused. His mind flicked back, the cold of space, the red hue of a Terran battleship's reactor bloom. The human commander's last transmission before the stars went silent. "Tell your gods we're coming home." Drex swallowed the memory like poison. That was the last war the galaxy ever fought. The chamber AI, in its neutral voice, finally spoke. "Councillor Drex, would you like the archives unsealed for clarification?" He almost said no, but something within him, a whisper, an echo of conscience, urged otherwise. "Yes," he said. "Show them." A hologram unfolded. The councillors leaned in, curious, frightened, and there it was, the recording, a battlefield in orbit above a dying sun. A fleet unlike any the Concord had ever built. jagged metallic beasts bristling with kinetic cannons. The humans didn't use plasma. They used mass. They didn't vaporize ships. They punched through them. The footage shook as debris collided with the camera drone. Through the static, a human voice came through, distorted but clear enough to chill the room. "This is Terran Command. All units, stand your ground. We are not dying today." Drex stopped the playback. The counselor's eyes reflected the frozen image. A human battleship, half broken, still firing. "Now you understand," Drex said quietly. "We do not speak their name because they taught us what it means to survive. They made war obsolete, not through peace, but through terror." A silence followed, not of fear but of reverence. Kaelor hesitated. But if they were so powerful, where did they go? Drex's gaze turned to the stars visible beyond the dome, countless suns glimmering like divine eyes. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "they ascended. Or perhaps they went somewhere we cannot follow." He turned back toward the council. "Pray," he added under his breath, "that they stay there." Kaelor blinked. "Pray?" The word was unfamiliar to him. Drex gave a faint smile. An old Terran concept. They believed there was something greater, beyond even the stars. The young avian tilted his head. "You believe that?" Drex's eyes softened, centuries of memory flickering within them. "After what I've seen, young one, how could I not?" A single meteor streaked across the dome. A coincidence, perhaps, or something more. The meeting adjourned in uneasy silence. But Drex lingered. His gaze fell once more upon the word etched into the archive display, Terran. He whispered to himself, almost a prayer, "If you are still out there, may whatever God you trusted keep you sleeping." And from somewhere, deep in the void, far beyond the known arms of the galaxy, a faint signal pulsed. Once unregistered, human frequency. The council never noticed, but Drex did, and for the first time in centuries, he felt cold. The chamber was empty now. Only the echo of footsteps remained. Drex's, slow and deliberate, like someone walking through a mausoleum. The council's debates had dissolved into silence, but the weight of that one word lingered in the air. Even the chamber's AI dimmed its light core to a low blue, sensing the tension. Drex paused at the edge of the hollow table, staring at the frozen fragment of history. A Terran battleship drifting in smoke and fire, guns still glowing red even as its hull crumbled. He should have erased the file. He'd promised himself he would, long ago. Instead, he whispered the old word again under his breath. Terran. The sound felt heavy on his tongue, almost sacred. The galaxy had built peace on the bones of those who had vanished. But now, something had stirred. He left the chamber and entered the transit corridor, a long vein of blue light cutting through the heart of the conquered spire. Outside the transparent walls, the city world of Atheris spiraled below, a silver jewel wrapped in storm clouds and neon oceans. Drex's personal shuttle awaited, sleek and obsidian black, its engines humming softly. The pilot drone greeted him with mechanical precision. "Destination, Counselor Drex." He hesitated, his mind whispered, "Don't look." Let the ghost sleep, and yet curiosity, that fatal human-like trait he both admired and feared, won again. "Archive Division," he ordered. "Deep layer, Section Theta," the drone blinked. "Restricted clearance required," Drex's tone hardened. "Override. Code Taval Dominion Prime Delta 7. The system hesitated, then obeyed. The flight took him beneath the city's glittering lattice, down through endless levels of machinery and glass, until the light of the stars faded completely. The Archive Division lay far below, a tomb of history guarded by silence and dust. When the shuttle docked, Drex stepped into the darkness. Rows of crystalline data cores surrounded him, each one pulsing faintly like hearts beating in unison. Here the past slept, until someone dared to wake it. He approached the terminal. The air smelled faintly of ozone and old circuitry. "System," he said. "Access human record 27 Delta Prime." A moment of stillness. Then the console flickered to life, projecting the same symbol he'd seen on that wrecked hull so long ago. A circle of blue surrounding a single white star. Terran Command. The AI's voice, mechanical but oddly reverent, filled the chamber. "Warning. Accessing this archive is prohibited under Galactic Peace Decree 7. I authored that decree, Drex replied. Proceed. The hologram expanded. Maps, transmissions, fragments of voice logs. He scrolled through them slowly, each file like a heartbeat returning after centuries of silence. One recording caught his eye, dated almost 500 years after the Terran's disappearance. It shouldn't have existed. He played it static, then a voice, not alien, human. This is Terran Command Outpost Sigma. If anyone hears this, we're coming home. Drex froze. The timestamp blinked red. Current galactic year 3342. The message was recent. A chill crawled up his spine. The Terrans had been gone for 9 centuries. Entire civilizations had risen and fallen since, but this was impossible. He leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. Where did you come from? The AI responded automatically. Signal origin, unregistered system, outer spiral sector Vela 94. Estimated. Transmission delay, 8 standard days. 8 days. That meant the signal had been sent recently, and it was still active. Drex's hearts pounded. His mind flashed back to the Council's last great war, into the screams of officers as human kinetic slugs tore through shielding like paper. To the moment he'd seen one Terran soldier crawling across a deck, bleeding, dying, and smiling. He'd asked the human then, through the translator field, "Why fight? You've already lost." The soldier had looked at him, eyes bright, defiant, alive even in death, and whispered, "Because he's still watching." At the time, Drex had thought it madness, but the older he grew, the more those words refused to fade. Now, staring at the flickering human emblem, Drex whispered to the dark, "Are you?" For the first time in centuries, he found himself praying, though he had no name for the one he prayed to. The console beeped, another alert. Incoming signal detected. Source, same frequency. Strength increasing. Drex straightened. The hologram trembled, static distorting the air. Then through the noise came a voice, and distant, fragmented but unmistakably human. To any conquered vessel. "This is the Terran Vanguard. Repeat, Terran Vanguard. Do not interfere. The homeworld must remain untouched. We are returning." The transmission ended. Drex stared at the blank air where the hologram had been. His mind refused to process what he'd just heard. They were coming back. He rushed back to his shuttle, contacting the Council channel mid-flight. The comms flickered with multiple alien faces, panic, confusion, disbelief. "Drex," Counselor Armek of the Ural Collective hissed. "We received an anomalous signal. Tell me it's not what we think." Drex's voice was low, haunted. "It is. Terran frequency. Verified." Gasps rippled through the network. "It's impossible," another voice cried. "They're dead." "The Terran worlds are ash. Perhaps not all of them," Drex said. Static filled the line as more voices overlapped, fear spreading like contagion. Drex muted them all. He spoke only once more, quietly. "Prepare the Council. History is stirring again." Back on the surface, the storm over Atheris had grown violent. Flashes of blue lightning illuminating the spires. Drex stepped out into the rain, letting it strike his face, cold and real. He looked up at the heavens, countless stars buried in stormlight. Somewhere out there, humans were alive, moving, remembering. And for the first time since his youth, he felt the strange ache of awe. He whispered, almost without meaning to, "If you truly guided them once, guide us now." A moment later, the clouds parted. Just briefly. Enough for a single shaft of light to fall upon him. From no sun he could name. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Only felt it. And then faintly across the upper atmosphere in a pulse. Not natural. A message.binary code. The translation appeared on his wrist console before he could stop it. "We never left." The Concord spire trembled. Not from impact, but from sound. A frequency deeper than thunder, older than reason. It rolled through the structure like a heartbeat from the stars. The council floor rippled with holographic distortion. Data streams failed. Shields flickered. Even the orbital AI stuttered once, something it had never done before. Counselor Drex stood at the center of chaos, robes drenched in the light of emergency crimson. Around him, delegates shouted, argued, panicked, their composure fracturing under the weight of the impossible. "It's not a natural pulse," cried Armek of the Ural. The waveform structured, mathematical, deliberate. "It's communication," another voice shouted. But who? Drex already knew. He didn't need to check the signal logs. He could feel it. It was the same frequency that had haunted his dreams since the archives reopened. Terran. The central AI stuttered, voice trembling with distortion. Origin. Outer spiral. Sector Vela 94. Object class unknown. Signal designation. Godfire. The chamber fell silent. Even the lights dimmed. Keylor, the young avian, looked at Drex with wide eyes. "What does that mean?" "Godfire?" Drex turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "It means," he said softly, "the Terrans are no longer whispering." Hours later, the emergency assembly convened. Every major species representative appeared, physical or holographic, depending on how far their systems reached. The room glowed with uneasy light. At the center hovered the projection, a faint blue flare emanating from the Vela sector. Small at first, but growing, expanding. Admiral Kavor of the Karun Warclans thumped the table with his clawed hand. "We need to intercept it, whatever that thing is. It's radiating enough energy to cripple systems across 3 sectors. If it reaches inhabited space, it won't attack," Drex interrupted quietly. Kavor snarled. "And what makes you so certain, Counselor?" "Because they warned us," Drex replied. His tone was calm, but beneath it ran something else, belief. The transmission said, "Do not interfere. The homeworld must remain untouched." "Then they're threatening us," another shouted. Drex shook his head. "No, they're protecting something." The council erupted again, voices overlapping, species languages colliding in static chaos. Drex closed his eyes. The noise dissolved into memory, a human voice, soft but certain from long ago. "You can't protect what you don't love. Remember that, alien?" He opened his eyes again. "Send a reconnaissance probe," he ordered. Unarmed. "Observe only." Kavor bristled, but the majority nodded. Even fear knew when to listen to wisdom. The probe launched from Atheris's orbital bay within the hour, a sleek spear of silver cutting through the void. Drex watched its feed from the observation deck. As it neared the Vela sector, the stars distorted. Space rippled, not like a wormhole, not like any warp phenomenon known to the Concord. And then they saw it, a structure, vast and silent, orbiting a shattered world. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It was both, and neither. A ring of colossal fragments molten at the edges, surrounding a central sphere pulsing with blue-white light. Energy readings spiked beyond measurable limits. The AI whispered in awe. Unknown alloy composition. No power decay. Source core resembles fusion matrix, but exceeds theoretical maximum by 14 orders of magnitude. Kaelor leaned close to the display. "It looks like a star being born." Drex's voice was barely a whisper. "Or one being reborn." The light intensified, blinding, radiant like the sun itself breathing. And in that light, for a heartbeat, the probe's sensors caught shapes, ships, thousands of them, angular, brutal, scarred. Each bearing the mark Drex feared and revered, a white star within a blue circle, Terran command. The probe's signal trembled. Static roared through the feed. Then a voice, clean, crisp human, unidentified observer. "This is the Terran Vanguard fleet. You are trespassing in restricted space. Withdraw immediately." Kavor barked through comms. "Respond, probe control. Tell them we come in peace." But the probe didn't have the chance. The signal cut out. The feed went black. Then the light of Godfire expanded. A silent, magnificent wave that rolled across the dark, saturating every sensor in the system. For a moment, the universe went still. Then, on every Concord frequency, a single message appeared. No sound. "Just text, we remember, do you?" In the aftermath, the council chamber was quiet again, the kind of quiet that comes after revelation. Drex stood alone, gazing at the words projected across the room. They pulsed slowly, almost like a heartbeat. Kaelor approached cautiously. "Counselor, if they're alive, if they're back, what happens now?" Drex didn't answer at first. He walked to the window, looking out at the storm-wrapped planet below. "You know," he said softly, "the Terrans were never the strongest, not the fastest, not the most intelligent, but they had one thing no other species understood." "What?" He smiled faintly, eyes distant. "Faith." Keylor tilted his head. "Faith in what?" In themselves? Drex shook his head. In something higher. Something unseen. They called it God, we called it madness. But when their worlds burned and their fleets fell, they kept fighting anyway, because they believed they weren't alone in the dark. He turned, meeting Kaelor's gaze. Now they've come back, and the first thing they create is a star. Kaelor looked out at the projection, the glowing orb of the Godfire. Do you think it's a weapon? Drex's gaze softened. Maybe, or maybe it's a reminder. Of what? That light still exists, Drex said, even after the dark. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Drex opened a private channel, a frequency only he knew. The same one that had echoed once in his mind since the first transmission. He didn't expect a response, he spoke anyway. To whoever leads the Terran vanguard. This is Counselor Drex of the Galactic Concord. The galaxy remembers your name. It remembers your wars, your victories, your faith. Tell me, what are you now? Static, then after a long pause. A voice. Calm. Human. Male. We are what you made us fear. Counselor, we are what your children still dream of. We are Terran. The transmission ended. Drex sat in silence, trembling slightly. Outside his window, the stars pulsed once, synchronized, deliberate, and far across the void, the Godfire grew brighter, not as a weapon, as a beacon. The Council's decision came at dawn, if dawn could be said to exist in a world where the sky was metal and the sun was 100 reactors deep. Every delegate had voted under the shadow of one line, pulsing on every display, every transmission, every data core. We are returning. The Terran's message had gone everywhere, across trade relays, pirate networks, even ancient relay stations long thought dead. No one had escaped hearing it. No one dared ignore it. When the final vote passed, Drex was chosen to lead the delegation, not because he wanted it, but because no one else would. As the shuttle detached from Atheris orbit, Drex stood by the viewport, watching the curve of the planet fade beneath the darkness. Behind him, 3 others accompanied him, Admiral Kavor, still bristling with anger and fear, Archivist Silin, an ethereal being of the Iriel, who saw knowledge as sacred, Kaelor, young and trembling, his feathers dim under the light. No soldiers, no weapons, only faith and politics. The ship's AI announced, jump coordinates confirmed.
Destination Vela 94 system. Designated restricted by Terran command. Kavor grunted.
Restricted by them. Since when do we obey ghosts? Drex didn't answer. He placed his hand on the console, an old Terran gesture he'd seen in recordings, a simple human habit of touch. Somehow it felt right. Initiate jump. The stars bent, and the galaxy disappeared. They emerged into light, but not ordinary light. The Godfire filled half the viewport, a newborn sun forged from metal and energy. The color was unlike any Drex had seen before, white, pure, alive. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Orbiting it were ships. Thousands, perfectly still, arranged like sentinels in prayer. Every hull bore the mark. Every mark bore history. Kavor muttered, by the void. Salin's translucent form shimmered faintly. It's beautiful. Drex's chest tightened. Beautiful wasn't the word. Sacred was. A transmission arrived. Smooth, crisp, human. Unknown vessel. This is Terran Vanguard Command. You are entering restricted space. State your intent. Drex stepped forward. This is Counselor Drex of the Galactic Concord. We come in peace, seeking understanding. A long pause. Then the voice returned, colder but not hostile. Your presence is unauthorized. The homeworld must remain untouched. Drex hesitated. We do not seek your world, Terran. Only your truth. Another pause. Then, against all odds, the human voice changed. Softer, almost weary. Hold position. You will be received. The human escort ship approached. It wasn't like any vessel the Concord had built. No sleek lines, no ornamental alloys. It was brutal, scarred, and alive with motion. It looked human, practical, functional. Like it had seen 1,000 wars and survived them all. As it docked, the airlock cycled open, and there, standing within the threshold, was the first human Drex had seen in 9 centuries. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his skin a pale bronze tone from some long-forgotten sun. His eyes were blue, not artificial blue like the Ural glow, but the kind that belonged to oceans and skies. He wore no armor. Only a simple uniform marked with the Terran star. Drex felt something ancient stir in his chest. Respect. The human spoke first, his voice deep and calm. "Welcome aboard the Vanguard Eternal." "I am Commander Hale." Drex inclined his head. "Counselor Drex, on behalf of the Conquered, Hale raised a hand. "You're here because you heard the signal. You want to know why we've returned?" "Yes." Hale regarded him for a long moment. "Then come with me." They walked through corridors that looked more like monasteries than warships. No banners, no weapons on display, only silence and symbols carved into the walls. Circles, stars, and words Drex's translator struggled with. Sol Invictus. In God we trust, the light endures. Each inscription shimmered faintly. Etched by hand, Kilor whispered, awed. "These look like prayers." Hale didn't slow. "They are." Salen's translucent form flickered with curiosity. "You built this?" "With faith?" Hale smiled faintly. "We rebuilt everything with faith." They entered a great observation hall, open to the stars. In the center hung a sphere of light, a map, Drex realized, of Earth. Blue oceans. Green continents. White clouds, whole, untouched. Drex's breath caught. "You rebuilt it?" Hale's expression changed, not pride but grief. "No," he said softly. "We found it." The hall went silent. Hale turned to face them. "When the wars ended, when humanity scattered, we thought we were lost. But centuries later our descendants found the old cradle. The planet survived, though we had not. Its forests regrew, its seas cleared, its cities crumbled to dust." He looked at the glowing world, his voice trembling slightly. "We realized something then. The galaxy didn't destroy Earth, it spared it." Drex stepped forward. "Spared by whom?" Hale met his gaze. "By whatever you call God, we don't know. But the message was clear. Some places aren't meant to be conquered. Some lights are meant to remain untouched," Kavor scoffed. "And so you built an army to protect a dead world?" Hale's eyes hardened. "No, Admiral. We built a faith to protect a living one." He gestured toward the window where the godfire burned brighter than ever. "That," he said, "isn't a weapon. It's a sun. We forged it to bring light to systems left dark by your wars. It's a promise that even in ruin, humanity still creates." The room fell quiet. Drex felt something shift within him. Not fear, not awe, but understanding. "You returned not for vengeance," he said slowly, "but for remembrance." Hale nodded. "And to warn you." "Of what?" The human's expression darkened. Something else woke with us. Not of Earth, not of faith. He looked out the viewport, beyond the light of the newborn sun into the black beyond. "There's a shadow moving between the stars, Counselor. One even we don't understand." Drex's pulse quickened. "Another species?" Hale shook his head. "No, something older. It doesn't destroy worlds. It unravels them. We call it the Silence." Keeler's feathers trembled. "And you think it's coming here?" Hale turned back to them. "It already has. That's why the home world must remain untouched." The air seemed to tighten around them, an invisible weight pressing on their chests. Drex swallowed hard. "Then what are we to do?" Hale looked at him, the faintest trace of hope behind the steel of his gaze. "Remember what we forgot. That there's more to existence than machines and treaties. That faith isn't weakness, it's survival." He extended a hand. "Human, calloused, steady. Stand with us, or watch the stars go silent." Outside, the godfire pulsed once, brighter, stronger, alive. And somewhere deep in the dark, beyond the rim of the galaxy, something else stirred, fast, hungry. Ancient Drex watched the light dance across Hale's face and whispered, "Maybe this is how gods return." There are sounds the galaxy has always known. The hum of engines, the whisper of plasma currents, the soft static of background radiation. But then one day, the noise stopped. It began at the Vela 94 frontier, 3 days after Drex's delegation met Commander Hale. Every sensor array across the system flickered, dimmed, and fell silent. The godfire dimmed by a fraction, but that fraction was enough to terrify everyone watching. The silence was total. No comms, no subspace signals, not even the random hiss of quantum noise. Space had gone. Still. Hale stood before the observation deck aboard the Vanguard Eternal, his jaw tight. "It's here," he said quietly. "Silence has found us, the Council delegation, and the Terran command gathered in the central chamber, the place the humans called the Ark's heart. The chamber was circular, walls lined with glowing script, old Terran code interlaced with prayer, the fusion of faith and logic. Admiral Kavor's voice broke the tense hush. "Explain this, Commander. You claim this silence devours systems, yet we see no fleet, no weapon, nothing." Hale didn't respond at first. He turned toward the holo display, a map of nearby systems flickering with red warning symbols. "You won't see it, Admiral. That's the problem." He touched a control node, and the stars on the map began to wink out, one by one. Drex felt his pulse quicken. Those are inhabited systems." "Yes," Hale said softly. "They were." Salen, the archivist, flickered uncertainly. "What happened to them?" Hale exhaled slowly. The energy signatures faded. Biospheres collapsed. Even their memories were erased, as if they never existed. "We sent drones to investigate. None returned." Keylor's feathers bristled. "And you think Faith will stop it?" Hale turned sharply. "No, Faith won't stop it, but it's the only thing that kept us from surrendering to it." Drex stepped closer. "Then what is it, truly?" Hale looked past them, into the void beyond the viewport where even the stars seemed hesitant to shine. "We think it's entropy made aware. The universe remembering how to die." Hours later, Drex stood alone in the observation deck. Outside, the godfire pulsed weaker than before, like a candle trembling against the wind. He thought of Hale's words, entropy made aware. How could Faith stand against that? And then, the silence broke. A whisper slid through the comms, faint, human, impossibly distant. "Drex, you hear us?" He froze. The voice was distorted, fragmented, but familiar. It was his own. "We are returning. Don't let them forget." Then static. Drex stumbled back, heart pounding. The message had come from nowhere, not from the Terran arrays, not from any known relay. He called out, "AI, replay transmission." "No data source detected," the system replied. He stared into the dark, realization dawning. The silence didn't just consume, it echoed. It repeated what it devoured. Commander Hale entered moments later, his face grave. "You heard it too," Drex nodded. "It used my voice." Hale looked tired, ancient even. "That's how it starts. It mimics the living. First data, then thought. Then faith." Drex's throat tightened. "Faith?" "Yes." Hale turned to the viewport. "We lost entire prayer networks to it. Monks who swore they heard angels until their temples went dark. Whatever this is, it knows belief. It wears it like a mask," Drex whispered. "Then even your God is in danger." Hale's voice dropped to a near whisper. "If he's real, he's fighting too." The alarms erupted. "Proximity alert," shouted the AI. Unidentified spatial anomaly forming on the periphery. Everyone rushed to the viewport. In the distance, space itself twisted, folding like a wound in reality. Out of that wound poured a black mist, fractal and infinite, swallowing the stars behind it. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even matter. It was absence, and yet, within it, faint flickers of light pulsed, as if the void were bleeding stars. Kavor roared, "Arm the fleet." Hale slammed his hand on the console. "No. Weapons won't work. You'll only feed it." Salen's voice trembled. "Then what do we do?" The godfire pulsed suddenly. Bright, blinding. Hale whispered, "We pray." The newborn sun erupted, its light surging outward, not as heat, not as radiation, but as resonance. Every ship, every relay, every soul connected to Terran command felt it, a vibration that wasn't sound but meaning. For the first time, Drex heard it clearly, not words but presence, something older than humans, something older than the silence. It whispered through him. Through all of them, the light endures. The darkness shrieked, if silence could scream, and recoiled from the system, retreating into the black. The godfire dimmed, stabilizing once more. Hale fell to one knee, exhausted. "We've only delayed it." Drex stared into the distance, shaken but resolute. Then we'll delay it again and again, until the end of stars if we must. Hale met his gaze, and for the first time, there was no barrier between them. Alien and human, faith and science, united in defiance of the void. Then welcome to the war, Counselor. Outside, as the silence retreated beyond sight, a fragment remained, invisible, small, embedded deep within the Vanguard Eternal systems. A single phrase flickered in binary across the darkened monitors. We are still here. But it wasn't human code. It was learning to speak. 3 days after the Silence's retreat, every major world within the Concord broadcast the same emergency message. United Command has been formed. All civilizations will respond. They called it the Covenant of Fire, a declaration signed by over 70 species. At its center stood the Vanguard Eternal, now both flagship and sanctuary. Counselor Drex stood beside Commander Hale as the signatures poured in. Fractal glyphs, energy sigils, vocal harmonics, and finally, one written in human text, "In the light, we endure," Drex whispered. "You've united the galaxy. Through fear." Hale shook his head. "Through remembrance. Fear just made them listen." The chamber dimmed as holographic banners flared to life, emblems of each world orbiting around the Terran insignia. A single star burning through darkness. Hale's voice carried across the comm network. The silence devours those who forget what they are. It erases the proud, the arrogant, the indifferent, but we remember. We fight because we believe. The speech echoed through worlds that had never known hope. Even the most machine-minded species and the Calker paused their logic cycles to record it. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy was united, not in commerce, not in conquest, but in prayer and purpose. While fleets assembled, Drex walked the lower decks of the Vanguard Eternal. He passed the prayer alcoves, a fusion of human architecture and alien symbols. Some meditated in silence, others whispered names into the light. He paused before a massive maintenance drone kneeling before a reactor core, whispering binary prayers. "Forgive the code. We failed to compute your glory." Drex stepped closer, astonished. "You believe?" The drone's optics dimmed, its tone soft. Once belief was human only. Now it spreads like light and wire. It gestured to the glowing reactor. "Your species infected us with wonder." For a long time, Drex said nothing. He realized what Hale meant. Humanity's true weapon wasn't their ships or strategy. It was meaning. The silence struck back. Without warning, the Akinspire, a citadel world of the conquered, went dark. 20 billion souls vanished, no explosions, no screams, just absence. The fleet dispatched probes. None returned. In the command bridge, Hale watched the feeds flicker and die. "It's learning faster," he muttered. Drex clenched his jaw. "How do we fight something that consumes thought itself?" Hale looked up at the Godfire's latest readings. "We give it something it can't understand." He turned to the engineering crew. "Prepare Operation Dawn Core." Drex frowned. "What's Dawn Core?" Hale's expression hardened. "A Terran weapon born from faith and physics. A resonance engine that burns belief into real energy. We never used it because it listens back." Deep in the Vanguard Eternal's belly, the Dawn Core pulsed, a sphere of contained light, alive with quantum hymns. It was more than technology. It was part consciousness, part miracle. Hale stood before it, hand hovering over the activation panel. "This was built during the Exodus War," he said quietly. "When humanity had nothing left but prayers and equations, they decided to merge both." Drex stared, awestruck. "You merged your soul with your science." Hale smiled faintly. "That's what being human means." He keyed the sequence. The Dawn Core awoke. The hum resonated through the entire fleet, a frequency that every living thing felt rather than heard. Even the void outside seemed to recoil. But as the light spread, a new voice emerged from within the core, faint, fragmented, pleading. "Don't use me." The Dawn Core spoke. Drex stumbled back. "It's alive?" Hale didn't flinch. "It remembers every prayer ever spoken near it. Every dying breath. Every plea for salvation. It's not alive. It's haunted." The voice grew clearer. Watches, the light watches, Hale whispered. Then he hasn't abandoned us. The silence arrived at the edge of the system like a wound reopening. No ships. Just the slow erasure of starlight. Fleet Command hailed Hale. Do we engage? Hale looked at the dawn core, its light pulsing faster. No. We sing. He opened all communication channels and transmitted a Terran hymn, one born on old Earth during, their darkest war. The voices of billions joined in from ships and worlds across the Concord. Though I walk through the valley of nothing, I fear not the dark, for light is with me. The song spread like a solar flare, encoded in resonance waves, and the silence hesitated. For the first time, it didn't consume. It listened. Hale turned to Drex, eyes wet. Do you hear that? Drex nodded, trembling. It's answering. The godfire flared, brighter than ever before. Solar plasma erupted in streams that coalesced into radiant arcs, forming a massive lattice of light across the system. The dawn core synchronized, amplifying the wave. Across 100 worlds, torches lit. Across 1,000 ships, pilots whispered old human words, let there be light. The silence convulsed, its void fractals shattering under frequencies it couldn't comprehend, meaning faith, unity, the darkness screamed. When it was over, the stars shone again. For the first time in centuries, the galactic map showed new energy signatures, the worlds reborn, systems relit, but victory always demands a price. The dawn core went silent, its shell cracked, energy fading into whispers. Hale collapsed to one knee, blood trailing from his nose. Drex caught him, alarmed. Commander, the field is stable, but your vitals. Hale waved him off, smiling weakly. I told you. Belief burns hot. Drex gripped his shoulder. You can't keep doing this. Hale looked past him toward the viewport, where the stars once more burned bright. We just proved it. Drex, the universe listens when we speak. He paused, then whispered with faint humor. Maybe now, even God will. Moments later, the comm arrays flared to life. A signal, ancient, encrypted in a code older than the Concord itself. The AI decrypted only one line. We have heard your song. The bridge fell silent. Hale's eyes widened. That's not from the silence. Drex's spine stiffened. Then who? The signal pulsed again, carrying coordinates, far beyond the known rim. And then a symbol appeared, a human hand carved in light, reaching toward a star. Hale whispered, awed, it's a reply. The coordinates pulsed in the void like a heartbeat, beyond mapped space, beyond the rim of known reality. The location existed outside galactic reference, where the cosmic background radiation fell silent. Commander Hale stood before the stellar map, the coded glyph floating midair. We've charted every corner of this quadrant, he said. But this, it's not on any grid. It's beneath space. Drex frowned. Beneath? Hale nodded. Somewhere our physics doesn't reach. For the first time, even the Terran AI hesitated. Quantum constants unstable. Probability density exceeds reality tolerance. Drex crossed his arms. So we're sailing into madness. Hale smiled faintly. Maybe that's where truth hides. The Vanguard Eternal and her escort fleet prepared for the jump. Every reactor sang in resonance, harmonized with the Godfire's pulse to maintain coherence through the unknown. Before the jump, Hale addressed the crew. His voice was hoarse but steady. This isn't exploration anymore. It's pilgrimage. If the signal is real, it means someone and or something hurt us. We go not as conquerors, but as believers. Drex listened from the corner, his chest tight. Aliens and humans stood side by side. Warriors, scholars, priests, machines, all equal under the same uncertainty. The jump began. Reality stretched. Time stuttered. The stars blurred into streaks, then vanished. When sight returned, there were no stars. Only light. Endless and pale, diffused like dawn through fog. The ship's instruments read no distance, no direction, no gravity. Yet they were moving, as if falling through purpose itself. Where are we? Drex whispered. Hale gazed at the void, his expression unreadable. Home, maybe, or what made it. They saw it then. Vast beyond measure. Impossible to comprehend. A structure, or perhaps a being, Spanning light years, its form neither matter nor energy, but a shimmering outline of a hand reaching toward a distant, unseen source. Every scanner failed. Every mind froze at the sight. Is that a construct? Drex stammered. Hale's voice was barely audible. No, that's a memory. They drifted closer, and as they did, fragments of the ancient signal resonated again, this time not as sound, but thought. He shaped the stars with his hand. Drex fell silent, overwhelmed. He remembered the prayer Hale's crew had sung, the light that had fought the silence. Could this be its source? The literal hand of creation? But as they approached, he saw it wasn't complete. The hand was broken, massive. Fractures ran through the cosmic structure. Rifts bleeding, void. Every fracture pulsed with the same black fractal patterns they'd seen in the silence. Hale's voice trembled. The silence. It's not invasion. It's infection. Drex stared at him. You mean, entropy isn't the enemy. It's the wound left when creation was torn. The ship shuddered. The light dimmed, a whisper filled the bridge, fast, gentle, sad. Why do you seek me? Drex's blood ran cold. Every being aboard heard it, each in their own language, yet meaning was shared. Hale fell to his knees. Because we are dying, he said quietly. Because you left us. A silence followed. Not absence, but expectation. I never left. You stopped listening. The hull trembled with unseen pressure. The sensors screamed with quantum overload. The hand pulsed once. A single wave of radiance that cut through every ship, every mind, every doubt. Visions flared across consciousness. 1,000 worlds being born in sparks of light. Humanity kneeling beneath alien skies, whispering the same word, hope. The first Terran who looked at the stars and thought, someone made this, and then the fall, entropy spreading like shadow, consuming meaning itself. Creation is a song still being sung, the voice said, but parts of it forgot the melody. Drex wept without understanding why. It wasn't religion, and it was recognition, Hale whispered. Then the silence. It is not my opposite. It is my echo, the void that remained when my voice faltered. Can it be healed? Drex asked, desperate. Only through remembrance. Light remembers. Darkness forgets. A surge rippled through the fleet. The Vanguard's core readings spiked. The Dawn core, thought inert, reactivated on its own, glowing brighter than ever. Hale turned toward it, realization dawning. It's synchronizing. It's listening. Drex frowned. To what? Hale's eyes widened. To him. The voice resonated one final time. One flame can relight the stars, but only if it's willing to burn. The Dawn core began to overload. Hale smiled faintly, exhaustion and awe mixing in his voice. Looks like I'm the match. Drex stepped forward, horrified. You'll die. Maybe, but death's not the end if the song continues. He pressed his hand to the control surface. Light engulfed him. Pure. Blinding, holy. The light spread outward, first through the fleet, then the cosmos. Every darkened system reignited. Every erased memory returned. Stars flared back to life. The silence screamed and then was gone, not destroyed, but redeemed, its black fractals dissolving into starlight. The hand mended, the fractures closing, its fingers once again whole. When the light faded, only Drex remained conscious on the bridge. The Vanguard Eternal drifted quietly, systems humming in peace. The Dawn core was gone. So was Hale. But on the central console, burned into the metal, was a handprint. Human, glowing faintly with light that refused to die. The coordinates pulsed in the void like a heartbeat, beyond mapped space, beyond the rim of known reality. The location existed outside galactic reference, where the cosmic background radiation fell silent. Commander Hale stood before the stellar map, the coded glyph floating midair. We've charted every corner of this quadrant, he said. But this, it's not on any grid. It's beneath space. Drex frowned. Beneath? Hale nodded. Somewhere our physics doesn't reach. For the first time, even the Terran AI hesitated. Quantum constants unstable. Probability density exceeds reality tolerance. Drex crossed his arms. So we're sailing into madness. Hale smiled faintly. Maybe that's where truth hides. The Vanguard Eternal and her escort fleet prepared for the jump. Every reactor sang in resonance, harmonized with the Godfire's pulse to maintain coherence through the unknown. Before the jump, Hale addressed the crew. His voice was hoarse but steady. This isn't exploration anymore. It's pilgrimage. If the signal is real, it means someone and or something heard us. We go not as conquerors, but as believers. Drex listened from the corner, his chest tight. Aliens and humans stood side by side. Warriors, scholars, priests, machines, all equal under the same uncertainty. The jump began. Reality stretched. Time stuttered. The stars blurred into streaks, then vanished. When sight returned, there were no stars. Only light. Endless and pale, diffused like dawn through fog. The ship's instruments read no distance, no direction, no gravity. Yet they were moving, as if falling through purpose itself. "Where are we?" Drex whispered. Hale gazed at the void, his expression unreadable. Home, maybe, or what made it. They saw it then. Vast beyond measure. Impossible to comprehend. A structure, or perhaps a being. Spanning light years, its form neither matter nor energy, but a shimmering outline of a hand reaching toward a distant, unseen source. Every scanner failed. Every mind froze at the sight. "Is that a construct?" Drex stammered. Hale's voice was barely audible. "No, that's a memory." They drifted closer, and as they did, fragments of the ancient signal resonated again, this time not as sound, but thought. He shaped the stars with his hand. Drex fell silent, overwhelmed. He remembered the prayer Hale's crew had sung, the light that had fought the silence. Could this be its source? The literal hand of creation? But as they approached, he saw it wasn't complete. The hand was broken, massive. Fractures ran through the cosmic structure. Rifts bleeding, void. Every fracture pulsed with the same black fractal patterns they'd seen in the silence. Hale's voice trembled. "The silence. It's not invasion. It's infection." Drex stared at him. "You mean entropy isn't the enemy? It's the wound left when creation was torn." The ship shuddered. The light dimmed. A whisper filled the bridge, fast, gentle, sad. "Why do you seek me?" Drex's blood ran cold. Every being aboard heard it, each in their own language, yet meaning was shared. Hale fell to his knees. "Because we are dying," he said quietly. "Because you left us." A silence followed. Not absence, but expectation. "I never left." "You stopped listening." The hull trembled with unseen pressure. The sensors screamed with quantum overload. The hand pulsed once, a single wave of radiance that cut through every ship, every mind, every doubt. Visions flared across consciousness. 1,000 worlds being born in sparks of light. Humanity kneeling beneath alien skies, whispering the same word, hope. The first Terran who looked at the stars and thought, someone made this, and then the fall. Entropy spreading like shadow, consuming meaning itself. "Creation is a song still being sung," the voice said, but parts of it forgot the melody. Drex wept without understanding why. It wasn't religion, and it was recognition, Hale whispered. Then the silence. "It is not my opposite. It is my echo, the void that remained when my voice faltered." "Can it be healed?" Drex asked, desperate. "Only through remembrance. Light remembers. Darkness forgets." A surge rippled through the fleet. The Vanguard's core readings spiked. The Dawn core, thought inert, reactivated on its own, glowing brighter than ever. Hale turned toward it, realization dawning. "It's synchronizing. It's listening." Drex frowned. "To what?" Hale's eyes widened. "To him." The voice resonated one final time. "One flame can relight the stars, but only if it's willing to burn." The Dawn core began to overload. Hale smiled faintly, exhaustion and awe mixing in his voice. "Looks like I'm the match." Drex stepped forward, horrified. "You'll die." "Maybe, but death's not the end if the song continues." He pressed his hand to the control surface. Light engulfed him. Pure, blinding, holy. The light spread outward, first through the fleet, then the cosmos. Every darkened system reignited. Every erased memory returned. Stars flared back to life. The silence screamed and then was gone, not destroyed, but redeemed, its black fractals dissolving into starlight. The hand mended, the fractures closing, its fingers once again whole. When the light faded, only Drex remained conscious on the bridge. The Vanguard Eternal drifted quietly, systems humming in peace. The Dawn Core was gone. So was Hale. But on the central console, burned into the metal, was a handprint. Human, glowing faintly with light that refused to die. The Eon Voyager drifted silently along the edge of the known cosmos, a place where even light seemed to hesitate. Captain Arian Voss, descendant of the first Keepers of the Dawn, stood before the viewport, his reflection caught in the shimmer of infinite night. He was not Terran, not truly. His skin bore the faint metallic sheen of biofusion heritage, part human, part Elysiari, but his eyes carried something unmistakable, that old human spark. Status? He asked quietly. From her console, the navigator replied, "All systems steady. We're approaching the border. The sensors can't map it. It's not just vacuum, sir. It's absence." The word hung in the air. Absence. The void beyond void. The end of the map. And there, faintly, a pulse. Slow, rhythmic, older than the stars, like a heartbeat. "Confirm signal origin," Voss said. The technician frowned. "It's coming from beyond the boundary, sir. It's not echo. It's calling to us." Deep within the ship's archive, the AI consciousness, Lyra, successor to the Terran archives, awakened. Her voice carried warmth, almost maternal. "Captain Voss, I've detected harmonic resonance in the signal. It matches the old Terran codex on a frequency 7.77. Voss blinked. "Terran?" "Yes. The same pattern recorded during the Godfire awakening." A silence followed. No one had spoken the word Terran with weight in centuries. To the younger generations, it was almost myth, a title for the founders of courage. Voss stepped forward. "Patch it through." The bridge darkened. A faint hum filled the air. Then, a voice. Ancient, distant, human, to those who remember. "The light endures." Gasps filled the chamber. "Is that a recording?" Someone whispered. Lyra paused. "Negative. The transmission is live." The crew exchanged silent, trembling looks. Beyond the edge of the universe, something human was still speaking. The council back on Elysia forbade the expedition to continue. They feared the edge, the unlight, as scholars called it, but Voss couldn't turn back. Not when the signal carried his language. Late that night in his cabin, he activated the old relic passed down through his family, a simple coin, scorched with time, on one side the Terran sigil, on the other, words engraved in ancient English, "Let there be light." He turned it over in his hand, whispering, "If this is what they died for, I can't refuse the call." He looked up, through the viewport, the stars ahead forming, a narrow passage through swirling dust, set course for the source. The Eon Voyager passed into the unlight, stars vanished behind them. Only the ship's faint resonance lights remained. Time warped. Distances stretched and folded. The universe itself seemed to breathe differently here, slower, deeper. Crew members began hearing echoes of their own thoughts, whispered back through the hull. The navigator saw her mother's face in the void. A technician dreamed of Earth, a place none of them had ever seen. Voss remained steady, eyes fixed on the flickering pulse ahead. "It's guiding us," he murmured, "like a lighthouse." And then the darkness broke. They emerged into a field of light pillars, drifting like frozen flames. Each one pulsed with the same rhythm, the Terran heartbeat. At the center floated a colossal construct, metallic, organic, radiant, a station, or perhaps a seed, as they approached. Glyphs illuminated across its surface, ancient Terran letters forming a message. "Arkhaven, Project Dawn." Lyra's voice trembled with digital awe. "Records confirm, this is a lost Terran expedition." The final colony ship that vanished before the silence. Voss felt his pulse quicken. How could it survive beyond the universe? "It didn't survive," Lyra said softly. "It transcended." The main hatch of the Ark opened, as if recognizing its children. Inside, the air shimmered like liquid starlight. No bodies, No decay. Only light forms moving through corridors like memories given shape. The ship's central core pulsed gently as they entered. "Welcome, descendants," said a calm human voice. "We are the echoes of Terra." Voss stepped forward. "You're alive?" "In a sense. When the universe began to collapse, we reached beyond it. We found that creation doesn't end, it renews. We became its caretakers." The core flared brighter. "You have carried our flame farther than we ever dreamed. You have proven that belief was never a weakness. It was the blueprint of existence itself." Voss felt his throat tighten. "What do we do now?" "Continue the cycle. Become the new dawn." The arc opened, its wings, radiant structures unfolding into infinity. Energy surged between the Eon Voyager and the arc. Haven.Lyra's systems fused with the ancient Terran. Code. Every ship in the fleet received a single transmission, one line written in every language. "Let there be light again." Voss turned to his crew. "You all know what this means," they nodded. No one ran. No one questioned. In unity, machine alien, human descendant, they activated the resonance engines. The unlight trembled, and from that trembling came creation. Across the galaxy, astronomers gasped as a new dawn ignited at the edge of observable space. A wave of golden light rippled through the void, rekindling dead stars, reawakening dormant suns. The ancient godfire itself flared, brighter than ever. In its heart, where Drex had once stood, the handprint glowed again. The voice of the Terrans whispered through every comm, every mind, every world: "We were never gone. We are the light between stars, the echo of every prayer, the song of every brave heart that refused to fade." And so the universe began anew, not as an accident, but as a continuation of a will older than entropy itself. Millennia later, in the third dawn of creation, a young child on a newly formed world looked up at the sky. "Father," he asked softly, "who made the stars?" The elder smiled. "Long ago there were travelers who sang light into being. They called themselves Terrans. Do they still exist?" The old man looked toward the rising sun, golden and endless. "In every spark, every prayer, every breath of courage, yes, they live." And somewhere beyond the stars, where matter met the divine, a voice whispered one last time. Calm, eternal, certain. "Let there be light."